How to manage conflict in your project team. My name is Guilherme and I'm a project management expert. I help professionals to become successful project managers. How I do that? It can be in several different ways, from helping them with specific training, from helping them with mentoring to make sure that they are applying the project management skills and developing them in the right direction, or it can be with consulting or so on. In the end, if your goal is to develop your project management skills, my goal is to support you in this journey. Don't forget to like and share this video here because that also helps to more people. That it helps it to reach more people, and more people can learn project management. Also, that will help you hopefully with better conflict management into your teams there. And of course, follow for more. Every week there's more content here in my channel. Every day there's more content on my Instagram there. The topic I'm going to talk about today is conflict management. Of course, this is a very important topic in project management. Conflict, it's a common thing. This happens in all teams and does not need to be necessarily a bad thing, does not to be the end of the work. So it's normal that at some point the different team members they are going to disagree about something. Different team members or you are going to disagree with something with your team members. That happens all the time. So you need to understand that's a common thing. Why these type of things can happen? A lot of times it's like you can see here. The problem can be communication issues. Sometimes you say something, the other person understands something in a different way. It can be that there's a kind of gray area and on roles there, and someone is expecting someone to do like the team member A is expecting the team member B to do something. The team member B is expecting the team member A to do that. So there's a gray zone, so nobody takes the action to do that. And in the end, they might discuss on that one if something delays or if something go wrong. It can be that the team members they seem to have different goals and priorities. That's why it's so important for companies to align the goals. For example, I have worked in a company that my goal was different or was a big gap into my goal and in the engineering team goal. What's the problem? Are they were designing and they were working to achieve their goal, but their goal were not helping the project to progress as it should. It can be just because personalities. Some people they have stronger personalities as the other one. Can be because at some point, depending on the type of project you are working on, resources are limited, so people are pushing around to get priority about something or to get a budget, or it can be poor leadership style and management style. That one can cause a lot of conflicts there in the team. Like a manager take a decision, tell one person in the team, but does not make sure that everybody's aligned. So they go to a meeting and people start to discuss, hey, but that's what we agreed to do it. But then the person say, yeah, but the boss told us to do something else. That kind of stuff happen quite often, mainly if you have a kind of micromanager boss there. So this is an important, of course. You understand it can be unsolved past conflicts. Once I'm working in a project that two people in the team, they for some reason they did not like each other, and there was stuff that was beyond the project there, and they kind of every time they were fighting for something. That's not nice, but that can happen. Cultural difference. I work with global teams. So I work with people. I'm Brazilian. I'm working in the Netherlands. I work with people in the US. I work with people in China, in Malaysia, in India, of course, in Europe. So all those types of different cultures, they create different types of way of communicating. So you already connect this with communication. Those things, they create different types of expectations. For example, once in a project that I was working with a factory on Mexico, I think it was like the production manager or the planning manager. He sent an email like, "Oh, but who is going to take care of the cost?" The context that we are talking about, cultural wise, I could understand because the culture in Brazil is much closer from the culture in Mexico than the culture in Mexico with the Netherlands. So what this person was saying that who is going to pay for this cost? Basically was that, and he was kind of in the way of he was reading, he was asking for the project to pay the cost. When I talked with a Dutch colleague, and he was saying, what this guy is talking about, why he does not just start to produce what we need. And I just read him and say, because he is asking you to pay for that. And the Dutch was like, but that's not a problem. If he wants that, why he does not ask that? Oh, because culturally, that's a different thing. You're not expecting to get there. So, of course, the conflict in this case, the person was kind of already heated up and will say, I'm going to push this guy and say, no, just answer that you're going to pay for that and everything will be good. And I say, really? I say, yes. Just write it down and answer. And he did that. And probably, I think 1 hour later, we got an email say, "Oh, we are moving forward with that." And everybody was happy. But just because the cultural difference in the way to communicate, how direct you are going to be, and how you ask for something was just different. So that was a conflict that was about to pop up, but that happened. Other type of conflict that you can have, it's like unfair workload. If there's team members that they are doing a lot, and there's someone else that's not doing or they're not taking their part of their problem. That can happen. And then of course then you have a conflict because at some point people will get fed up, say, I'm doing a lot and this person is not doing it, and then you tend to have a conflict between those persons there, and or between a person and the group. Lack of accountability. If something goes wrong and people they don't want to admit it that they did something wrong. Here is of course in a situation, if you have the right culture in your team, you need to understand that everybody is going to make mistakes, including yourself. So be aware of that. But you should not work with a blame culture. Say why you did that, you should have done that. It's much better if okay, what happens, what's going on, and how we can solve it. Then you can start to avoid this problem of lack of accountability, and people will have space to take the ownership. What's the kind of problem that also can pop up? I've seen, for example, in one of my programs in the past, there was a problem. The design team was delayed, and the lead design he started to point it out fingers to everybody else. Why everybody else did wrong? Say, but that's not what we are talking about here. Just and we were not even blaming him. Say, hey, but how can we solve the problem? But of course, he did not want to take accountability for the delay, and then he started to blame other people and start to create conflict, including of course with me because I was leading the program there. Resistance to change. Sometimes there's a changes of procedures, and people they say, I'm not going to do that, and they keep wanting to resist the procedure, the change, or whatever. So that also does not help, and that raises conflict. Because and like if you have a procedure and someone does not want to follow, say, but why you don't want to follow? That's our official procedure. You must follow it. And of course, when I'm telling you that you should not follow a procedure blindly without understanding, it's also nice that you understand if there's things that they don't add value, you can challenge that. But you need to understand that you cannot just throw everything away and do whatever you want. Mainly if you are working in a big corporation, there are procedures that you need to go for. If you are working, of course, on your own startup, then you are free to do as you wish. Another one is stress, high stress with the work environment, or a lot of workload. Why? Because simply people are going to be in a very high level of stress. They are going to be exhausted. So small stuff can start to trigger them, and it helps with everybody. I remember that a couple of years ago, I was handling I was handling two big programs there with two big OEMs, and there was a lot of transition changes in the company, so my stress level was quite high. And there was an audit, and I started to ask information about audit to plan around few weeks in advance. And there was a no, no, nothing needed, nothing needed, nothing needed. And like in the day before the audit I remember it was like Friday morning. On Thursday afternoon, I got an information. By the way, we need you, we need this, and that. And of course, because of my stress was high, I was very pissed off, and I sent an email around. Sent an email pushing back the quality manager. I copied the level above. It was not the best reaction. Gladly, also the quality manager in the other side, he understood the situation and he kind of replied, but not to create an additional stress. Then later on, of course, I did apologize for him. I said that was not the best reaction that I could have, and then we kind of we cleared there. But all those conflicts, they are going to pop up in your team. It's natural, it's normal part of it. And some conflicts, they're even good. Of course, if you maintain this every time you need to maintain it in a respectful level, in a professional level. But challenge if the team is starts at some point challenge each other, that's not a bad thing. It starts to be a bad thing, and when it starts to deteriorate for a conflict. Once I was in a meeting, then there are two team members. They start to discuss it, hit the discussion, and then suddenly they just drop the meeting. Say that's that's not a helping thing. Of course, after that we talk, they clear the air and so on. But it's very important here. So, how do you manage and solve conflict in your team? There are different steps that you can take, and of course, different situations. It's important for you to understand. And there's even different models there. For example, there are the three most common models or most used models that you're going to see on conflict resolution there. There are the interest-based relation approach. That comes from the book Getting Yes there. And I'm not going to go into these details. There's the theory of dual concern theory. There are the theory of human needs. Every one of those models, they have their advantages, and basically here you see an overview why they're used and why they're very acceptable. And here I'm going to present to you a step by step, which is kind of a mix of those models, and of course mix of experience and what makes sense or not. So the first thing, one of the, or here you see steps for conflict resolution. They are not in order, of course, but one of the things that are very important here: stay calm and objective. This is when your emotional intelligence plays a big role here. And you might, if you might have been following me for a while, you see that I have a lot of videos talking about mindset, emotional intelligence. Why? Basically, your emotional intelligence you can break down into two things: awareness and actions. Awareness, of course, you're going to get with self-reflection, feedback, and so on. And the self-reflection, with this feedback, self-reflection, you can develop with then you start to develop your mindset. You put a growth mindset, how you're going to evolve, and so on. Not going to talk about mindset, but just keep that in mind. And of course, the action of the emotional intelligence, how you're going to react, which is going to be triggered in a situation like that. If you have a conflict, they stay calm and objective is the action part of your emotional intelligence. Why? Because it's very easy to say that you have an emotional intelligence. When everything is perfect, when you show up, the emotional intelligence is when shit hit the fence. When things go wrong, that's when you need to demonstrate your emotional intelligence. So staying calm and objective, it's very important. Or if you want to put in different words, do you have a poker face? I'm not sure if you are familiar with the game poker, but or not. But one of the very important things, if you are playing poker with people, of course, not online. If you are face to face with people or in a video online, maybe it's important that you don't change the way you look for your semblance. For example, if you have very good cards and you start to smiling, and people say, "Oh, okay, this person has very good cards," and then they are not going to make sure they might not you might not get the best game that you have in your hand there. So that's why it's important to keep in a situation of conflict. Make sure that your poker face is there. What's a poker face? You're not going to have a reaction very soon. You're not going to start make look mad. You're not going to start to repeat stuff or to start to yell or anything kind of that. Or you just breathe, stay calm and objective. Then you go for the next step. Try to understand where the conflict is coming up. That's why I mentioned a lot of different causes. Why this conflict is popping up? What's going on there? Why is so important for you to understand the root cause of the conflict? Because that's going to be the only way to solve it. Because if it's a miscommunication, like the two people there, they start a conflict, but they are talking about exactly the same thing, it's just a matter of making sure that's understood what they're talking about. So it's important for you to understand the root cause and keep a good communication flow going. So in situations like that, if you are can be different because sometimes as a project manager you are kind of working as a mediator because there's a conflict with two people in your team. What's important for you is you make sure that they are communicating a proper way. And if you see that the discussion is getting too heated, as the mediator, you need to stop that. If you are involved in the discussion, you stay calm. But if you see if the other part is getting too heated, stop the discussion. Say, I see that this is we are going in the wrong direction here. It's probably better for both of us to take some time to think about that, and we come back to this discussion later today. Stop it. If things start to be heated, stop the discussion. Because if things start to be heated, you're not going to be able to stay calm or an objective, or either you or the other part. So you're not going to be able to have a good communication or understand anything. More the discussion starts to get heated, less the chances are that you're going to be able to reach a conflict resolution scenario there. Make sure that you're always focusing on interest and not in position. Why I'm saying that? A lot of times people have a position. I think we should do. We need to do that, and they start to argue. But okay, what's our common goal here? For example, well, your common goal is to release a product, and say, we should really. Okay, what's our common goal here? Our common goal is to release the product with this level of quality. So why you're proposing that? And then you understand the reason why they're pushing to release a product, for example. Because I don't think this is a big deal for quality. Okay, then you talk with the other. Okay, why do you think this is so important really, for quality? And if you are working in a team with more than one people, other people can also participate. For example, I'm working in teams right now that I have a design engineer, I have a product engineer, a quality engineer, a test engineer, myself. And sometimes then we say, okay, it's a quality. Quality engineer, what's your perspective? Hey, design engineer, what's our perspective of the risk? Hey, test engineer, what's your perspective of the risk? Because you help to contribute to see, okay, it's not either your position and your position. Let's see. Let's take an overall look to understand what our interest here is common, but let's understand how we can work to achieve that together. The other very important is to encourage empathy and perspective taking, meaning it's kind of understanding those things. Of course, they kind of go together. But if you're trying to understand the root cause, you need to understand what's the perspective of the other person. And you might be empathic for the situation. See, maybe the person is pushing because there's someone above him or her that's putting a lot of pressure. Like sometimes some people keep asking for a report, report, report. And you say, and this person is getting a lot of pressure. Say, okay, I understand that you are getting a lot of pressure. Maybe you go directly with the stakeholder and you take the responsibility there, meaning that say, hey, the person cannot deliver this report for you here because he or she is still waiting for information from my side, which I'm going to provide for you, I don't know, this afternoon or tomorrow. Is that okay? And if they say yes, that's okay, then you are also helping there in this situation. But being empathic for what's happening on the other side is very important. And basically, empathy will go for everything. And mainly because if you're not treating the other side in an empathic way with respect, that will only will help to have more conflict. And for sure, if you're expecting the other thing from the other side, you're not going to get it. Let me give you an example. For example, I have a Q&A box on my Instagram where people ask questions, and somebody asked me, say, I want to be in the supply chain development or supply. I want to be a supply chain manager or something like that. And I just answer, oh, interesting, but I'm teaching project management, not supply chain manager there, not supply chain. And then The person start to send me a print screen, say, yeah, I Google it, supply chain, and project management is one of the top skills to be a good supply chain manager. And I just answer, yeah, so project management is a top skill to a lot of different professions. Does not mean I can teach you all of them. And the person say, just reply to me, do the needful and get my answer. Saying, if I'm offering you to provide advice or answer your questions for free, and you are talking with me, it sounded very disrespectful. Say, what do you mean, do the needful? I don't owe you anything. So that was basically my reply. Say, I don't owe you anything. So if you want answers, go and find yourself. Start talking with respect when you talk with people. And then, of course, the person says, oh, I did not mean like that. But of course, I did not reply anymore. But I'm just showing you that not being empathic and not talking about not understanding the perspective of the other people, that will not help you. In your team, if I'm saying I cannot help, just go and find something else. Or say, okay, can you help me to understand project management? How can I help with supply chain? Or blah blah blah. But this is just one example. Why, when you think about perspective and at the point that you're not communicating in a right way. So again, you think impacting perspective taking, but also connecting with communication. If you do not communicate in a proper way with people, conflicts will rise. And of course, what you need to look for conflict resolution, look for generally for look for solutions that are beneficial for both parties. Meaning that, for example, a lot of times, depending on the type of construction project that you have, can be difficult. You can have a lot of difficult negotiations. Why? Because the people they all for some customers they always want to pay as cheap as possible. Well, what's the problem with the solution? That sometimes they need to change something, but they don't want to pay for that. So they want people to do that for free, and some companies do it for free. And then later on they ask, okay, can you pay me that? Then they're going to say no. So this is not a solution that's beneficial for both parts. And also going to the next order, that's also why it's important focusing the long-term relationship that you're going to have there with those companies. Because can you imagine if you're working with a company, those companies are not paying you, you're not going to work with this company in the long term. Why? Because it needs to be understood from both sides that the companies must be profitable. And I'm not saying that should be high margins or whatever, but the relationship must be beneficial for both parties. And this long-term relationship you can look for if it's in your team, your company, or so on. Sometimes the relationship is not just beneficial into your team, or there's someone in your team that's more creating conflict than solving it. So if the long-term relationship cannot be there, the common solutions they cannot be there, it might be easier just to change someone in the team. Make sure then, of course, when you're talking about looking for solutions, you have clear agreements. Say, okay, I'm going to do this, and that's what we expect. What you are expecting from me, you are going to do this, and that's what you expect from me. And that's a very common thing that you need to do, for example, in a team meeting with your team, because people need to understand what's expected from them and what we are going to do, who needs to do what, and who is doing what, and what you're going to do next. And of course, you can have follow-ups depending on how you're working with your project. You can have even dailies and so on. But what's the idea, for example, of a daily? Is to make sure that you have clear agreements for the day what you're going to execute. You have already a clear follow-up. You're trying to foster communication. Make sure that it's understood what each other is doing to avoid conflicts and to make sure that the team can be more effective. So those steps that you usually are going to take here can happen also in team meetings. So keep that in mind. And of course, the other one, know when to involve a mediator. Sometimes, what can be a mediator? If it's in your project, you can be the mediator. If you're conflict with another person, you can involve, for example, someone else. For example, in one occasion, I don't remember exactly which project it was, but I was pushing someone in my team to deliver something because it was required, it would impact the critical path, would impact the release, and so on. And at some point, I just stopped it because say it does not help me to keep pushing you because I understand that you cannot do it anymore. So I need someone above also to help us to solve this conflict. And it can be a conflict between companies. That's why you escalate things, because when you're escalating what you're involving someone that has more authority than can possibly mediate to solve the conflict there. So escalation is understanding how we are going to mediate and solve the issue. And of course, that's very important to understand how you're going to escalate something. Because if you just throw something and try to blame something, then you're not being empathic, you're not taking the other people's perspective, you're not being calm and objective. So the escalation is a way to involve a mediator that can help you, but make sure that again, when you are doing that, stay calm and objective, understand the root cause, take the other people's perspective, make sure that before you escalate, the agreements they were clear and they were not met, and that's why you are needing a mediator there. Make sure that what you are doing there, you are looking for solutions that can be beneficial for both. And of course, depending on the situation, uh, some types of solution they are not going to be the might not be the ideal case for the other person or other company. What's the example? Why I'm giving you the exact example? Say something is delayed and someone needs to work in the weekend. That can be beneficial for both companies. Might not be the best case for the person that needs to work in the weekend, or it might be even a good case. In a lot of different companies, different depending on different laws in place, different countries around the world, they pay very nice extra fees for working extra, and so a lot of people like to do that. So that's a beneficial situation for everybody, but you need to understand that. And of course, in the end, what you need to do, you need to reflect and learn from experience. Why it's reflect and learn is important? Because come back in, what you are doing when you are reflecting, you are trying to learn, you're developing your emotion and intelligence. When you are reflecting about something, you are working to your awareness. And your awareness, what is? Emotion and intelligence. So you can have better actions to react to stuff. But those are, of course, things that you can look for to try to improve. And why it's interesting to know a very common root cause. I can tell you a very, very, very common root cause that makes conflicts arise is poor communication. So you, as a project manager, you need to focus on communication. How do you focus into your communication? Ask questions, confirm understanding, rephrase what's being said, confirm, double confirm it, write it down. One of the things that makes easier for people to understand and to see is write it down. And sometimes I do that even in my team meetings. Like I don't remember. A few weeks ago we were discussing a list of the hardware that was required, and I was not clear for me which of those hardwares would go where. And the person was trying to explain to me, yeah, it's clear, it's clear. So I start to write down. This is here, this is here, this is here. Wrote a list, and the person said that actually this one is not here. Then we kind of okay. Now it's clear. It's clear for everybody. Yes. So writing down it's a good way to make things clear to facilitate communication. Because if everybody understands the same thing that's written there, that's a good way to facilitate communication. And of course, it's also a tool that you can use as long as, of course, you remain calm and you understand what you're doing there. So conflict will arise in all types of project that you're going to have. That's a normal thing, so you don't need to worry about that. Make sure that every time you have a conflict, that stays into a professional way, meaning no yelling, no blaming, stay calm, objective, and try to work out a solution with your team. And understand that at some point, just keeping pushing people will not solve anything. So that's also, you have a tool that's called the mediation. You can bring other people or managers, kind of an escalation that to help you to solve those conflicts there. Again, make sure you like and share this video here so we can reach more people and more people can learn project management. Make sure that, of course, you follow me for more content. If you have questions, feel free to ask here in the comments there. You can also send me a direct message on Instagram, or you can also put the question in the Q&A box and on Instagram. If your goal is to develop your project management skills, my goal is to support you there. And you have, of course, different ways. You can click in the link and you can see how I can support you. I have specific programs to help with planning, mentoring to help with developing your emotional intelligence, your mindset, your skills, and everything else. Because in the end, if your goal is to develop your project management skills, my goal is to support you in this journey. Thank you. See you. Bye.